The studio lights were unforgivingly bright, casting sharp reflections across the polished floor of Real Time with Bill Maher. Every seat in the audience was filled, the air thick with anticipation. Tonight's episode had been teased for weeks. The Reason sat backstage, pacing slowly, his jaw clenched with restrained emotion. Prince Harry. He had done countless interviews before, formal royal engagements, sympathetic sit-downs, tense press conferences, but something about this felt different. Bill Maher was no soft interviewer. He was known for sharp wit, unapologetic skepticism, and a willingness to push guests into uncomfortable territory. Harry exhaled slowly, straightening his jacket as a producer approached. "You're on in 30 seconds, she said gently, though her eyes revealed concern. Harry nodded. "Let's get it over with." The applause erupted as Bill Maher stepped onto the stage, grinning confidently. Thank you, Bill said, settling behind his desk. "Now, my next guest needs no introduction, author, philanthropist, former working royal, Prince Harry." The audience clapped enthusiastically as Harry walked out, waving politely. He shook Bill's hand and took his seat. Cameras zoomed in, capturing the faint tension in his posture. "Prince Harry," Bill began, smiling. "Welcome to Real Time." "Thank you for having me," Harry replied evenly. "So," Bill continued, leaning back, "you've had quite the journey. From palace walls to California living. That's a long way, emotionally, geographically, and culturally." Harry smiled faintly. "It's been transformative." At first, the conversation flowed smoothly. They discussed Harry's charity work, mental health advocacy, and his life with Meghan and their children. The audience nodded along, occasionally applauding. But Bill Maher was just warming up. "You know," Bill said casually, "a lot of Americans sympathized with you at first. The pressure, the tabloids, the expectations, it's understandable. But now, some people are asking, when does explaining your pain turn into profiting from it?" A murmur rippled through the audience. Harry's smile faded slightly. "I don't see it that way. Speaking about personal experiences can help others who feel unheard." "Sure," Bill replied, raising an eyebrow. "But when those experiences involve family members who can't respond publicly, doesn't that complicate things?" Harry shifted in his seat. "I've always been careful about what I share." Bill chuckled lightly. "Careful is an interesting word." The audience laughed nervously. Harry's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it. "I've shared my truth. That doesn't mean it's the full story, just my lived experience." Bill leaned forward. "But here's the thing. Millions of people have difficult families. They don't have Netflix deals." The laughter was louder this time. Harry inhaled slowly. "With respect, Bill, my situation isn't comparable to most families." "Isn't it?" Bill pressed. "Because from where a lot of people sit, it looks like privilege complaining about privilege." The studio grew quieter. Even the band behind Bill had stopped smiling. Harry's eyes hardened. "You're simplifying something incredibly complex." "That's my job," Bill said. "To question narratives." Harry nodded slowly. "Questioning is fine. Dismissing lived trauma is not." Bill shrugged. "Trauma's real. But so is accountability." The words hung heavily in the air. Harry leaned forward for the first time. "Do you believe mental health struggles should only be taken seriously if the person suffering is poor?" Bill blinked. "No, but, because that's what this sounds like," Harry continued, his voice firmer now. "That because I was born into privilege, my pain is less valid." The audience shifted, uncomfortably. Bill crossed his arms. "I'm saying that when someone repeatedly tells the same story, people start asking why." Harry let out a short, humorless laugh. "If people listened the first time, maybe we wouldn't need to repeat it." A sharp intake of breath rippled through the room. Bill smirked. "Ah, so it's our fault." Harry shook his head. "It's no one's fault. But it is everyone's responsibility to listen with empathy." Bill tilted his head. "Empathy doesn't mean immunity from criticism." "No," Harry replied, "but criticism without compassion is cruelty." The applause that followed was hesitant, scattered. Bill leaned back again, eyes narrowing. "Let me ask you this. Do you ever regret leaving the royal family?" Harry paused. For a moment, the confident public figure disappeared, replaced by a man wrestling with deeply personal memories. "No," he said quietly. "I regret that it had to come to that." Bill nodded slowly. "And do you regret how public it became?" Harry hesitated. "Sometimes. But silence was costing us our well-being. Bill tapped his desk. You see, that's where people struggle. You say you want privacy, yet you choose very public platforms. Harry looked directly at Bill now. Privacy and silence are not the same thing. Bill opened his mouth to respond, but Harry wasn't finished. I never asked to be born into that life, Harry said, his voice rising slightly. But I did ask to be treated as a human being. The room was silent. Bill sighed. No one's denying your humanity, Harry. Then stop reducing my story to headlines and punchlines, Harry shot back. A collective gasp echoed through the studio. Bill's expression hardened. I think you're being a bit sensitive. That was the moment. Harry sat back, his face flushed. Sensitive, he repeated softly. That word has been used to dismiss me my entire life. Bill raised his hands. I didn't mean. No, Harry interrupted. You did. The tension was now palpable. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate. Harry stood up slowly. Bill looked surprised. Are you leaving? Harry adjusted his jacket, his voice steady but cold. I came here for a conversation, not to be mocked. Bill scoffed lightly. It's a comedy show. Then maybe invite clowns, Harry replied. The audience erupted, some clapping, others gasping. Bill stood as well. Come on, don't walk out. Harry turned toward the exit. I've spent my life being told to stay quiet for the comfort of others. I'm done. As he walked off stage, the cameras followed him for a few seconds before cutting back to Bill, who stood frozen, disbelief etched across his face. Well, Bill muttered, that just happened. The audience buzzed with shocked whispers as the show abruptly cut to commercial. Backstage, Harry leaned against the wall, heart pounding. He closed his eyes, unsure whether he felt regret or relief. What he didn't know was that this moment would ignite a media firestorm far bigger than anything he had faced before. And the fallout had only just begun. The moment the studio lights dimmed and the commercial break rolled, the atmosphere backstage exploded into chaos. Producers rushed past one another, whispering urgently into headsets. A senior executive stood frozen near the monitor, replaying the final seconds of the broadcast on a loop. Prince Harry standing up, delivering his final line, and walking away while America watched in stunned silence. Harry, meanwhile, sat alone in a quiet dressing room down the hall. His hands trembled slightly as he loosened his tie. The adrenaline that had carried him through the confrontation was draining fast, leaving behind a familiar ache in his chest. A knock echoed softly. Harry, his security advisor asked cautiously. We're ready to leave whenever you are. Harry nodded. Give me a minute. The door closed again. Harry leaned forward, elbows on knees, staring at the floor. Did I go too far? He wondered. Across town, and across the country, screens lit up with breaking news alerts. Prince Harry walks off Bill Maher show live on air. Royal meltdown or justified stand. Social media erupts after shock TV moment. Within minutes, clips of the walkout flooded social platforms. Some viewers applauded Harry's refusal to tolerate what they saw as mockery. Others accused him of being thin-skinned and unable to face criticism. The world, as always, was divided. The fallout begins. By the time Harry reached his car, his phone was buzzing non-stop. Meghan. He answered immediately. I saw it, she said before he could speak. Her voice was calm, but he knew that tone well. It meant she was holding back emotion. I didn't plan it, Harry said quietly. It just happened. I know, Meghan replied. Are you okay? Harry hesitated. I don't know yet. There was a pause. I'm proud of you, she said finally. You set a boundary. Harry closed his eyes. The world won't see it that way. Some will, Meghan said. And the ones who matter will. Harry exhaled slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing just a fraction. Bill Maher responds. Back at the studio, Bill Maher returned to his desk once the commercial break ended. The applause was scattered, uncertain. Well, Bill said dryly, adjusting his notes, that was unexpected. The audience laughed awkwardly. I didn't think questioning public narratives would send someone running, Bill continued. But here we are. By the next morning, Bill doubled down during his podcast. I didn't insult him, Bill said. I challenged him. If you can't handle questions, maybe don't go on unscripted television. The statement only fueled the fire. Media outlets dissected every second of the exchange. Body language experts analyzed Harry's posture. Psychologists debated trauma, privilege, and public vulnerability. And then, inevitably, the royal commentators weighed in. Across the Atlantic. In London, the reaction was colder. Unnamed palace sources described the incident as regrettable but unsurprising. One tabloid headline read, "Harry can't handle the heat, again." A former royal aide appeared on a morning show. "This is what happens," she said bluntly, "when someone confuses personal healing with public performance." Yet not everyone was critical. A respected mental health advocate tweeted, "Walking away from disrespect isn't weakness. It's self-preservation." The tweet went viral. Harry breaks his silence. 2 days after the incident, Harry released a short statement through his foundation. "I agreed to the interview in good faith, expecting a respectful conversation about mental health and public life. When the discussion turned dismissive, I chose to leave. Setting boundaries is not an act of anger, it is an act of self-respect." The statement was simple, measured, and powerful. Still, critics weren't satisfied. "He wants sympathy," one commentator said. "He wants control," another argued. "He wants the spotlight," claimed a third. Harry watched the coverage from his home, the television muted. "I'm tired," he admitted to Meghan that night. She sat beside him, holding his hand. "Then rest. Let them talk. But it never stops," Harry said. "No matter what I do." Meghan looked at him carefully. "That's why what you did matters. You didn't perform. You didn't apologize. You chose yourself." Harry nodded slowly. For the first time since the show, he felt something close to peace. An unexpected call. A week later, Harry received a call he hadn't expected. A producer from another major network. "We'd like to invite you back on air," the producer said. "But on your terms." Harry raised an eyebrow. "My terms?" "Yes. No ambush questions. No comedy framing. A real conversation." Harry considered it. "Let me think about it," he replied. After the call ended, Harry walked outside, letting the California sun warm his face. For so long, he had felt trapped between silence and spectacle. Now, for the first time, there was a third option. Intentional truth. The moment reframed. Weeks later, public opinion began to shift. The walkout was no longer seen as a meltdown, but as a turning point. Articles appeared with new headlines. "When walking away is the strongest move. Why Harry's exit sparked a bigger conversation." Even some former critics softened their stance. "Maybe," one columnist admitted, "we've mistaken access to someone's pain as entitlement to judge it." Harry read that line twice. A private reflection. Late one evening, Harry sat alone in his study, writing in a notebook, a habit he'd kept since his army days. He wrote about the studio lights. About the word sensitive. About standing up and choosing to leave. He paused, then wrote one final sentence. "I didn't walk out of weakness. I walked out of self-respect." He closed the notebook and placed it on the shelf. Outside, the world continued to debate, analyze, and argue. But inside, something had shifted. For the first time, Harry felt like he had truly reclaimed his voice, not by speaking louder, but by knowing when to stop speaking altogether. And that, he realized, was a power no one could take away.